Hello, welcome to episode 1 of The Project. On this episode, we clear some things up in a very brief feedback. We find out what job Raz should have. Things get dark when we talk about SADS. We play a quick round of predictive text, and more. So, get comfortable for the first episode of The Project. Hello, Raz.
Hello, Ron.
How are you doing?
I'm quite alright. Just looking forward to talking to you.
What a compliment. I'm quite intrigued to see how this is going to go. Yeah, what direction it will take.
I'm sure it'll be a good direction. One direction, you might say.
That wouldn't be a good direction.
It's a direction, though.
So, I kind of thought, even though we haven't had a formal episode yet, we have had a trailer.
We have.
I wondered whether it'd be worth going through some of the vague feedback we had on the trailer.
Sure.
So I've got a couple of notes on it, and I was just kind of address so we can clear up some of the things we're doing with the podcast. The first one I got, which is quite a quick one, we'll pass through it, was just that we were very quiet, and that was purely my end, the editing the podcast.
Same. I was also very nervous, I guess, recording this, because it's not something I've ever done, and I'm not good with conversations in the first place.
People were confused about the intro to the trailer. So, originally I'd planned to do a clip from the episode. So in this episode I would have taken a clip from partway through that's either humorous or kind of sums up our opinions or something like that. And would have had that before the opening. In the trailer, we kind of didn't have enough content to do that, hence why it was all pre-recorded. But talking with one of the listeners afterwards, he actually quite liked the idea of doing that segmented start, separated with the dings, and summarise what was going to be happening in the podcast. So, for example, who's on the podcast, what we talk about, whether we have guests, and if we do have guests, a bit of backstory for them. And I'm quite open to that idea. I like the idea of kind of summarising what happens in the podcast before the podcast starts.
Yeah, seems pretty good. I mean, I'm not the one who has to edit it, so...
Yes, yeah. Doesn't affect you that much, to be fair.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. The other two things that we need to properly discuss at some point and talk with Fan about as well is schedule and podcast structure.
Oh.
And I do have... How many do I have? I have basically 4 kind of sections that I think we can talk through.
Should I be taking notes?
No. Well, you can if you wish, but...
Got my clicky pen already.
I won't test you at the end. Oh, I've got one of those near me.
Yes.
Okay, enough of that. Yeah, move quickly on. So, schedule. I think we're probably going to aim to do 1 a month.
Yeah.
Plus extras. So we'll have a kind of strict limit of we will get 1 done a month. And then on top of that, I've got plans for some guest episodes and some other specials.
Ooh, exciting.
My brother, which we spoke about in the trailer, is very interested in being on. He also listens to a lot of the same podcasts I do, so there could be some interesting discussion there. I'm quite interested to have some special episodes that kind of just appear out of nowhere.
Sounds good. Looking forward to another person being in the dark with me about the topics we talk about.
Yeah, I could spring some great topics on my brother.
Is he very like-minded like you?
We are very similar, yeah.
Let's hope you're not too similar.
That will be very interesting. So, we spoke about before we started, a couple of weeks back, about the focus of the project being podcasts themselves. So every episode or every few episodes we bring up podcasts we listen to. So I thought we'd kind of go roughly over our backstory again, but how about not our strict first meeting? Okay, Raz.
Yes.
what would you say our shared interest is?
Oh, jeez. Podcasts. Podcast accessories.
The podcast Hello Internet.
Yes,
We both listen.
we do.
As far as I know, we're both up to date. I was thinking we could both open our podcast apps and compare and contrast what podcasts we regularly listen to.
Oh boy, are you gonna be disappointed. I have like 5.
Okay, well let's pick 4 of the podcasts we listen to,
Okay.
and then see whether we share any. I know of at least 2 we share.
Yeah, I can do that.
So the podcasts you've listened to all the way through, do you have any of those?
That would be No Dumb Questions by Destin Sandlin and Matt Whitman.
Good choice. I also have them. I was going to put those as most entertaining and informative. So No Dumb Questions is a podcast. 2 guys, as you said, Destin and Matt. They just chat, really, and record their chats, which is informally what we do.
Yeah.
But not necessarily. Okay, so a podcast that I don't think you listen to, but I've listened to all of from the first episode. I was one of the early listeners. There's a podcast called Hey Riddle Riddle.
That's interesting.
Have you heard of Hey Riddle Riddle?
No, not at all.
Okay, so a quick summary. It's 3 comedians, and each episode, one takes the lead and brings along a series of riddles to work through. And then the other 2 have to try and come up with an answer. But along the way, they tend to bring up old jokes. So they call every man referred to in the riddle is called Kevin, and every woman is called Susie.
Oh, God.
So it's just, you end up with all sorts of confusing situations where Kevin is talking to Kevin, who's talking to Kevin about Kevin.
That podcast would drive me mad.
It's so confusing, but so entertaining. I was walking around town earlier today, and it just makes me smile. I must look like a complete nutter walking around town, just grinning. It's a worthy podcast to listen to.
I have that with the No Dumb Questions. They'll make the weirdest jokes, and even like the most inappropriate jokes, and I'll be on the bus smiling like a complete loony person.
It is a really good podcast. It's very, very entertaining. Have you listened to the podcast Serial?
I have not. I've been wanting to, but I don't know. I'm so saturated with crime drama and crime.
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
And it's just, I might get to
Serial is so niche, though. It's less of a... It is a documentary, but it's quite a cleverly told documentary. That's another one worth listening to.
Did Hello Internet cover it at one point? I feel like I heard it from them.
They did, yeah. I think that's how I first got into it, was because they reviewed the first season, but they're now on to their 3rd season.
Oh, okay.
So they're partway through that. Do you have any other podcasts you'd like to bring up?
Let me see here. I have a podcast called Explorer Story with Emily Grassley.
I know Emily Grassley, yeah.
Yeah, she started a podcast where she talks like to staff from the museum she works at, and they just tell their story, how they got into science, what goes on in the museum. She wants to get to give a behind the scenes of the museum so people know what it's like to work in the museum. You get like a lot of stories of how they got to the point of their careers, some high points, some low points. It's a pretty interesting, informative podcast.
So what was that one called?
Explore a Story.
Explore a Story. There's something about having a good podcast name.
Yeah. Kind of like the Project Podcast.
Good hint there. That's like, maybe you could listen to that one, Raz.
I shall check it out.
What was that again? The Project Podcast?
Yes, it is, Ron. You might want to write it down.
Oh, and what's that you say? We now have an RSS feed that you could install on your podcast app and get every new podcast as soon as it comes out.
I don't know how you read my mind, Ron, but yes, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so a podcast we both listen to. No Dumb Questions.
Yes.
Do you remember what they did on their first episode?
I do not. I could look, and then it's...
Okay, well, intriguingly, I do remember. Their first episode, they were talking about whether they think they're suited for a podcast. And the way they decided was by both doing some online quizzes.
I don't like where this is going.
I have an online quiz for you.
All right.
Would you like to do it?
I mean, I'm here. I might as well.
So the way I was thinking of doing it, rather than you just sitting in silence and doing it, I'm going to read you the questions and I'll fill in your answers.
Sounds like a plan.
So, I found this particular quiz on a well-known YouTube channel's website.
What's this YouTube channel?
We're not going to name for fear of copyright.
Oh, wow, okay.
We shall call this website Fizz Meal, which you could work out if you thought a little while about it, what website this is.
I'll think about it, but let's do the quiz.
Let's do the quiz. The title of this quiz is "This quiz will reveal what career you should actually be doing."
Oh God, Ron, why you gotta discourage me from my career choices?
Well, I will start this off by saying I've done this quiz, and it got me dead on. It said I should be an engineer.
Oh.
Which is what I'm training to be. So there is some hope.
All right, let's see.
So just remind the listeners, what are you heading towards?
Criminal justice, more specifically law enforcement.
You're heading towards being in the police, or the cops, as you would
Yes, the coppers,
refer to them as?
the popo,
Yeah.
the 5-0, whatever you want to call them.
Okay, let's start with this first question. So, are you ready, Raz?
I am ready.
To find out what job you should be doing. First, pick a TV show to talk about at work. So, the options are The Big Bang Theory, House, Master of None, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Mad Men, or Grace and Frankie.
I'm gonna have to go with Big Bang Theory because that's the only one I've ever watched.
Oh, really? Have you not seen Breaking Bad?
I have not. Mostly because I don't have cable.
I watched... fair enough, yeah. I watched it through Netflix. I don't know whether it's on the US version of Netflix.
I just got Netflix, so I'm definitely gonna write that down. I've heard lots of good things about it.
Have you watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
No, and that's actually one I had been recommended before, but I couldn't for the life of me remember the name. So I'm gonna write that one down too.
Oh, I'm very close to finishing that now. I've almost caught up. Maybe we should set that as homework, and in a couple of episodes' time, we shall discuss.
I mean, I'm down.
Would you be down for doing that? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have to find it, but yeah.
Okay, second question. Now, buy something with your first paycheck. Would you buy, Raz, some good wine, club clothes, a basic t-shirt, toys, a book, or some throw pillows?
Okay, so the devil's in the details here. Is the basic t-shirt cotton?
Okay, I shall say it is a cotton t-shirt.
I'm torn between the t-shirt and the book.
Ooh, a man of words.
A man of letters, if you will. But I'd probably go with the t-shirt just because I need clothes. I always need clothes.
Yep, we always all need clothes. Okay, question 3. How will you spend your first vacation? You can tell this is an American website because you don't call it a holiday. Okay, Raz, would you visit the pyramids in Egypt? Try out some Peruvian restaurants in Lima? Go to a music festival in Iceland? Surf in the Caribbean? Or Caribbean?
Let's not start
Do you say
this.
Caribbean or Caribbean?
I could go either or, but I'm more used to saying Caribbean.
Learn a new language in Hong Kong? Visit museums in France? Visit Tokyo's Disney World? Or backpack in Kenya?
Ooh, all very nice choices. I'm torn between the museums and the pyramids. Museums, there's a lot of knowledge
You're coming off far more cultured than I did.
Which is ironic because I'm not, but I just enjoy museums. I'd probably go with going to Egypt though, because it's such a nice place. I'd like to get to see everything firsthand and not just from behind a glass wall.
I had plans for heading to Egypt with my sister and eldest brother. They kind of fell through because of the political upset currently occurring in that area of the world.
That is very true.
But I would love to go to Egypt.
Can I change my answer just because of the political upset?
No.
Damn it.
I've already clicked it. So I put going to a music festival in Iceland. Me and my sister are going to Iceland next summer, hopefully.
Send me pictures.
And it's just a beautiful place. And we're going to try and time it to see Northern Lights, but they're very unpredictable.
Oh, there's an app. I'm pretty sure there's an app that can tell you.
Really?
Yeah. I know somebody who has.
Okay, if any of the listeners know, let us know on Twitter or in the Discord ways of finding out when the Northern Lights are reliably.
I'll have to go ask some people, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there's an app for that.
Okay, I think this is question 4. To get around it, we'll call it question D. Pick a sport to get into. The choices are biking, tennis, running, gymnastics, soccer, basketball, or volleyball.
I hate you that you said soccer.
It says soccer. It's football. Proper British football.
I'm going to have to go with running, just because that's where my athletic background was.
You used to run, didn't you?
I used to run.
Did you do long distance or faster?
I mean, it wasn't anything formal. It was more just I would get out and run as long as I could, which wasn't very far. It was like a mile and a half at most.
Still further than I can run.
But yeah, it was back in.
That's an interesting one.
It was back in my my younger days when I wanted to do other things with my life.
Yeah, I'm still very into. I put cycling as mine. That's my major fitness hobby. I enjoy getting out on my bike, both mountain biking or road cycling.
I've never done like formal, I guess you could call it, biking. I used to like riding bikes, but never done it. It seems fun though. I just feel like I would get a cramp in the middle of going downhill or something.
Oh yeah, it's a risky one. I have some cycling stories for another time.
Ooh. Remember, kids, wear helmets.
Okay, final question. Where do you prefer to spend your weekends? I might try and guess what you put for this.
Oh, let's see how well you know me.
I'm going to guess. Okay, I'm going to mute myself and say what I think you'll put. And then in the final podcast, you'll see whether I'm right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm now muted. This is just me and the listeners. I think that Raz is going to go for... is going to go for visiting loved ones. Okay, I've said my answer.
Oh, let's see how well you know me, Ron. No pressure.
The options are, okay, in a bar, in a library, the office, in a lecture, in a concert venue, visiting loved ones, a classroom, in a construction site, or in a soccer field, football field.
I do like my family. I could go to a library anytime I want. Probably visiting loved ones.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm very into music. I went for a concert venue. I would love to be able to go to a concert every week and not have any repercussions. But that doesn't happen, so...
Does that count like not getting tinnitus? Because that's like the one reason I don't go to concerts.
Oh, okay, so interestingly, Raz, the job you should be doing, might be a bit rigged, is an engineer.
Yeah, no, rigged.
I'm slightly concerned that the only answer is engineer, and they just really want some engineers at this website.
Yeah, no, I can't do engineering. That's not my thing. Too much math.
Oh, dear. Oh, well. Thanks for doing that, Raz. That was fun.
That was very fun.
Okay, we shall move on to our third section. I have no idea how this is going to go.
What did you do, Ron?
Pre-warning, this might go really dark really quickly.
Oh, no. We're going to start off dark?
Raz, do you think it is possible to die without a cause?
I mean, just going off my gut, I would say no. Something has to fail there.
This is true, yeah. Yes, you would kind of assume that there has to be a base cause to death. Okay, take it from this angle. Do you think it's possible to die and nobody know the cause?
Okay, yeah, I can see that. New discoveries are being made every day. I'm sure something would pop up.
Okay, so you think that there can be undiscovered reasons for death.
Yeah. I mean, that's where a lot of epidemics came from.
Yeah, this is true. If you went back 100, 150 years, then you'd half of the medical understanding is removed.
Yeah.
People were dying of all sorts of things, and it appeared they just keeled over one day. I don't know why I decided this topic. Partway through this week, I was walking around and I was suddenly like, is it possible to just die?
I mean, there is spontaneous combustion, but...
No recorded situations of that happening.
That we know of. The government knows.
So there is a classification of death which is called sudden arrhythmic death syndrome. Do you know what that is?
I mean, judging by the name, it may be something with the heart. The heart stops pumping or something.
Yep, yeah, arrhythmic is to do with the hearts.
I mean...
So sudden arrhythmic?
It just stops suddenly? Or maybe pumps too much?
Aha, yes. So it's a situation where normally it's referred to as like scared to death. That's quite a common cause for this syndrome. And it's something will trigger your heart to change its rhythm. So it'll pump very rapidly and just undergo enough stress that it just stops. So sudden arrhythmic being suddenly the rhythm of your heart is changed, which leads to death. So your heart works, but it has a very particular rhythm across itself. If that changes, all sorts of major problems can happen. But there are cases of this. So there are about 15% of cases that post-autopsy, they still don't know the cause. What caused the sudden change in the rhythm.
That's interesting.
It's quite unnerving.
Like,
there's about 1 in 100,000 cases. What was it? 1 in 100,000 heart attacks is considered one of these. Is considered a sudden arrhythmia. And then 15% of those cases is a complete unknown cause. Just somebody keels over.
So they're not really that rare then, are they?
No, that's quite a lot.
That's kind of scary, man.
Yeah.
I don't just want to die suddenly.
It makes you think, though. It's like how temporary things can be, though.
Yeah, it makes me like want to get out and start running again.
Yeah. Well, about a year ago, I had a huge change of diet for health reasons. And since then, my stamina increased. And I didn't realise how closely linked stamina and diet are. So it's not only you have to build up stamina, but if you're doing stuff to limit your health effectively, that is something you can change.
Yeah, I've heard about this. I've been told multiple times by my parents that I should probably get out more. Go on a run, son. You used to love it so much. Yes, but then I took an arrow to the knee, Mom.
It's such a hard thing to get into, though. Regular exercise. So yeah, that was a slightly darker note. I thought that was fascinating, though.
It's certainly interesting. It just seems so weird that something like that can't be identified.
So it's under certain conditions, for example, during exercise, fast, chaotic heartbeats can develop.
I mean, the heart is a muscle, right? So effectively what's happening is just the heart is getting a cramp. I mean, I would think so, because the heart is exhibiting a lot of force, a lot of rapid movement, and that's essentially what happens with any exercise. You overwork your muscle.
Yeah. Do you think that's
tightens
possible?
up and it can't move. So, I mean, the heart needs to move.
Could you imagine if your heart literally just locked up, though?
Oh, that would be the worst experience.
Like a cramp.
Calf cramps are the worst. Like, I want to die when I get a calf cramp.
I get cramps regularly in two places. On the underside of my foot, which is so painful, and then under my jaw, so my jaw muscle locks up, that's really weird feeling.
I just touched my jaw, trying to think about how that would feel.
Maybe I'll spend some time and see if I can find an actual recorded case of a sudden arrhythmic death.
I might do that too, because now you got me interested / scared.
Oh dear. Okay, to lighten the mood, we're going to go through one round of predictive text.
I didn't know we had these.
Yeah, did you see this being done in one of our Discord servers?
I mean, I didn't see it done. I saw it suggested.
Okay, so, Raz, do you have your phone on you?
I do.
Okay. Open up Discord.
Okay.
I'm going to do mine in general chat. So the way this works, I will type your name, and then following this, you need to just click the predictive text at the top of your keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll just read them out, and then we'll leave it at that. We'll move on. No discussion.
Any preference? Because mine has like 3 options.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the middle ones.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do mine first, so I'll type mine out and then read it. Oh no, mine's got stuck in a loop. Okay, I'm gonna do a different button.
I'm waiting in suspense, Ron.
Yeah. Starting off with Raz. Let's do just random ones. Okay. Okay. My predictive sentence. Raz, the server was down to earth, an environmental and social sciences university. The university is the best of my life.
That was very nice. my phone just basically insulted you.
Oh no! Oh, that shows our DMs.
And it's in Spanish too. So.
Already. Okay, read out in Spanish. I'm gonna do my best to translate.
Ron O L de un niño de 4 años y que no me da el visto.
Okay, I know no Spanish. I'm regretting saying I'll translate.
Basically what it's saying, ignoring the gibberish, is Ron is a child of 4 years old and he hasn't seen me.
Oh, that's so good. Oh dear. Oh, we've had one sent in from Fen.
Oh.
So I'll read Fen's out. Fen, you are a very simple, but is there any way I can come up with a plan for the episode?
That's a little too structured. I'm suspicious of that one.
Okay, finally, our last section of this episode.
Oh, darn, I was really enjoying recording. I don't want to go.
So, section 4, or 5, depending on what we count as sections. And I've called this section the Project Update. So, I think every episode or every few episodes will just clarify some things that have changed, some ideas we've had, things we'd like to implement. And this being the first episode, I thought it was best to just clarify ways of interacting with us and the ways that we can interact with the audience, the listeners.
Seems vital. I'm down.
So, if you are listening to this, the chances are you know how to listen to a podcast, and you probably have a podcast app. But did you know that you can have this podcast automatically saved to your podcast app of choice by using the RSS feed, which we will be tweeting out after this episode is released? You can take that RSS feed and search on your podcast app, and from there subscribe to our podcast. And speaking of Twitter, we also have a Twitter handle, which is at tpod21. That's TPOD21. Fen will be running that, but both Raz and I also have access to it. We will be tweeting out mostly updates to the podcast. I've got some ideas of putting out surveys, seeing what people are interested in. But that is probably the best way of getting in direct contact with us. Leaving us feedback of what worked well, what didn't work well. The other major way of communicating with us is through Discord, which is effectively a forum that we sit in and talk with the people who listen. And we will also be tweeting out an invite link to that, again on at tpod21. So keep an eye out for that once this episode is live. And the final way to send us feedback, talk with us, or send us other ideas for quizzes that we can ask each other is through the old-fashioned form of email. So the email is theproject.pod21@gmail.com. That's theproject.pod21@gmail.com. So yeah, feel free to try and talk with us. We'll do our best to respond as quickly as possible. But mostly send us feedback. Tell us what you liked, what you don't like. ways we can improve, and most definitely send in more quizzes, because I think that will be fun.
Anything too harsh will be ignored, though.
Yes, if you insult us, we will ignore you. So yeah, this has been an episode.
Has it been an episode?
I don't know. I'm not sure this will get released. It depends how the editing goes. But this has been an attempt at an episode number 1 of the Project Podcast.
And if you're hearing us, then that means the editing went well. If not, well, we had a good run.
Thank you for joining me, Raz.
Thank you for having me, Ron.
I hope I didn't scare you too much.
I'm gonna throw away all my chips in my cupboard right now.
Yeah, maybe I've encouraged you to live a healthier lifestyle. And with that, we end. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for being here.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.